So thank you so much, everyone. It's been almost 6 weeks. We have been on this, and today is the fourth day for the last week of the hackathon. And within the first week in July, we treated Buoyant, and you were informed on at the end of that week to have your projects ready, which you have started working on in Buoyant, and now you're migrating the project to Spyral. And within the past days, just a quick review. Let me share my screen. So within the past days, we have discussed how, like, on the first day, for instance, do you mind, Abel, if I use your Regimo, if I use your corpus to do some illustration?
You can go ahead.
All right. So on the first day,
Yeah.
the professor showed us how we move from the voyant that we are familiar with straight to Spiral notebook. And so when you get there on Spiral notebook, and he explained all this and all the other aspects of text and editing your metadata. And from there, treated all the aspects of tools. And the following day, we talk about categories and lists, stop words, and other features, changing your configurations and parameters using the Austin corpus, which you have the file. And I'm a little bit sure that we're all familiar now with the Spiral notebook environment. And yesterday we treated some common, what we call it, some common functions that you see in Spiral notebook. So let's say, for instance, so we talk about some of this JavaScript syntax. We talk about fundamentals of also of JavaScript in Spiral. And if you can't remember a lot of things, just at least you remember variables, methods, functions, objects, and in an interesting way, we also explain that some of all these things, with time, you'll be able to also get it. For instance, if, for instance, you click on two, for instance, and you want to put a two, sometimes a lot of demonstrations and other things, or documentation that will give you some kind of things that is expecting. I'm expecting any of these two, and then it should be a string, which means it's quoted and like that. And then you run it. And if you're going to put configuration, it should be an object. So that was the essence of yesterday's, what we call it, yesterday's explanations on those fundamental. And when you see any, what do we call it? If you see any of the Voyant Spiras notebook in a practice work, you are confident enough to say, okay, I understand what is going on here. And I think, oh, that should be what this person is doing, this research, and that is what a person is doing. And yesterday, we also treated, for those who have shown interest in artificial intelligence and large language model. We started by talking about the limitation of using it to generate your corpus. So we talk about the limitation, and we addressed how you can set it up. So how you can have your local Voyant installed, have your Llama installed, connect two of them together, set up your call, and voila, you're running that. And one of the things we explain is most of the things you do, like you can reuse the code if that is what you really want to do. You can reuse the code, but if that is not what you intend doing, then you can, what we call it, you can leave it and use other means of loading your corpus, which we use the example of the using URLs. So using your URL is one of the other ways of loading your corpus. And some people have been doing that in their works. So one of the examples that we can take a look at some examples of of project proposals that have come in, and we can also take some questions before we go into today's today's lecture will be focused on visualization. So one thing I would do is like as we have said, we're using a link server. So let me look at any of these tabs that I'm not using again, and link server, so link project. Okay. I think I share the URL. Share the URL in the chat.
Augustine, Andrew rebooted the main server. So
Oh,
you can now you should be able to use that now.
okay. So let's go back to Voyant. Thank you. So let's go back to voyant.org. And okay. And okay, this is up now and good. And so let's open some of the assignments and projects that some of the participants are currently working on. Someone is asking if maybe Abel, do you mind telling them in the chat that we are on live? And because there's a message that came in now asking, are we not having today? And we're using the link that has been sent to their email. Thank you. Just drop that in the chat for them. Thank you. So let's go to Spyral and okay. And open. So if you have like today today we have been sharing notebooks as the HTML files across each other. We've been sending it to each other as HTML because we work on it on a different place without being able to save it. So, but if you even save it on whatever you save it, you can always you can what we call it, you can always download it as HTML and open it on your system. So can we take a look at, let's take a look at, so Reggie Moore, for instance, his project, and open that, okay, and then we'll click on open. So you have your couples loaded using your ID, and you have assigned that to Zimbabwe and some of your tools. Then another way we can open, so that's loading the data through the ID that you have created. Let's look at Abraham's project, for instance. So let's open. Yeah, we don't want to save. Okay. So the couples is also using a URL. And so it's using the ID. So there's and then we can look at Joseph's project, for instance, and yeah, Voila. So this is better from my own point of view than using what we call it, than using LLM, because since Spyral can do web scraping directly, so even PDF files and all this thing, except the journals or the publications are licensed or they don't allow access to it unless you log in and authentication. But if not, that's not the case. As much as possible as URL you have in the array, if you run it, it's going to do the scraping. So, and then I think it named the couples that it generates as igbomarriage.tool and survey the document, but we're trying to run it so that we have the same, we'll check what is there. So this is a very good way of loading couples too. And you see, basically, sometimes some of all these things can be confusing, but as at this level, you know it. You know that this is an array of strings containing the URL, and they're inside this particular, what we call it, the couples braces, which it's a function and then another function which assigns Igbo marriage and to that stuff. Okay, Prof, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say that this is a good case where it's useful to, it's useful. You don't want to have to run the process of going and getting the web pages more than once. So this is a case where it's useful to record the corpus ID, which is created, and then to create a cell that says, load corpus with the corpus ID, assign so and so, so that in the future you don't have to run that first cell to go off and get all the different websites. Once the
Oh,
corpus is created, you can just open the corpus and you don't have to run it. Whereas the way this is written now, you sort of have to go, it's going to go off and try to get it every time. And if it can't get a website, you see you're probably going to get an error or something like that.
okay. So, Prof, what you advise is we assign it straight away an ID, and that ID can be reusable.
Yeah, I'll go. We have a tutorial. Um, we have a tutorial on loading, and we actually have a tutorial on loading web pages, which shows some different ways to actually manage your list. If you just give me a moment, I will loading web pages. Where is it? Okay, gathering web pages. So here is a I
Nice.
don't know if you want me to sort of to
Yes.
to show this and comment on it, but I
Yes.
can show you some of
Oh,
the features.
that would be great because some of the participants are loading their corpus through URL, through scraping.
Okay, so
We'll take that now.
so I'll share my screen. So I'm in a tutorial called Gathering Web Pages. If you go to the main list of tutorials and you go down to recipes, the second one under recipes, gathering web pages is the one. So you can always access it there. And so this is a sort of staged tutorial which walks through the different ways to load a web page. So we start with just the simplest, just loading one web page. Then we show you what Augustine showed you, how you can have an array with two web pages and you can load it. You'll notice that we use this dot summary, which then tells us what the corpus ID is. Because what I can do then is I'm going to add a code cell. I can then add a cell that says load corpus. Oops, sorry, I didn't copy the right thing here. So what I can do is that instead of running this, the second time I come to my Spyral notebook, this corpus already exists because Voyant indexes and caches your corpora. This is the reason why when you go to Voyant, it says August 15th. We're deleting the things because we've just been, it fills up and we never delete them. So we're deleting all the ones that are more than a year old. But this also means that you can save yourself time because once you've generated the corpus, you don't need to run that process of retrieving. So the second time you come in, you ignore the first cell and then you only run the second cell and you're off to the races. Okay, back to this. Okay, so and here we show it. Here we show how you can then load the corpus. So I already got that. Okay, so here's a more complicated way. Here, this is a text field. When you create a code field, you can configure it either to be JavaScript, but in this case, we've configured it to be text. And what we can do is we can put a URL on each line, and then we assign that text a variable name. And then here we have a line of code that separates it takes the variable and it separates each line and creates the array. And then we have the array here. So the nice thing about this is it allows you to manage a list of URLs without having to worry about the quotation marks and commas and stuff. You can just manage them one per line. And then every time you've changed it, you run this, you make sure that it's assigned, and then you run this again, and you're off to the races. Here is some more elaborate code, which will actually go and check whether or not the URL is there. So it doesn't, it tells you which ones don't show up. And then we have some more advanced code. Sometimes when you're getting a web page, there's a lot of garbage. There's all the headers and something like that. So this is something a lot, and this is for people who understand how HTML is structured. We use the DOM, and we can go in and grab just the body of the text or some other portion. And then finally, we put it all together here. So you got a list, and then we sort of check to make sure that things are there or not, and we're off. And here you get the results are put into a text cell that you can edit and clean up if you want to. So anyway, I will stop there, but if you're grabbing stuff here from URLs, take a look at this and see if it makes sense. I'm going to pass it back to you now, Augustine. Thank you for letting me uh, show this.
Thank you very much. And I think for cases or in your project, if you're using the URL, we can adjust that and use it's the method that Prof has just explained. So I'm going to share the link to that tutorial in the chat. And if there's need for support, you can always reach out so that we won't need to be running the whole thing afresh, as well as I really like the other second script where we have to at least have some parameters to check for URLs that are not active or that are not effective. Okay, so I share my screen again, and so we take a look at a few more projects and look at what is going on. And we can now take some inputs or some things on the project you're working on so that we'll be able to know how we will support you better. So that was Joseph's project. And so let's look at our patient's project. Okay. Open that. Okay, and I'm not saving. All right, so we have couples, yes, loaded through Voyant and an ID, and then given the name, patients, couples, and then the documents that are there. So we can look at summary of the couples. Let's quickly take a look at the summary. Summary. I prefer to avoid typing error. So let me just take from summary. Good. Graphical error. And interesting. So patients coupled has 19 documents. That was 170,955 words, and an exploration I've started, and that's good. And okay. So which other projects do we need to take a look at again? Just a minute. Okay. Let's open Foster's. Manage. Okay. So let's open one more and select basically, so Abraham, I think open Abraham's project. So okay. So let's do that. Okay. 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 It's in French. So Abraham, your project is in French, and you loaded the corpus through the Voyant tool. So that's where you loaded. So do you want to speak to the project so that we just hear your view? Abraham. Hello? Your project is in French, and that is unique. And do you want to speak to it? Like, what do you like? For me, it's like I don't understand French, but is it getting what you want? And are you seeing from the tools, from your exploration, are you seeing what you're looking for? Okay.
Yes.
I
Yes,
think,
Abraham.
Augustine, you're running out of memory. I think you should quit one of the, like, quit if you're using Safari, quit Firefox or something like that.
Okay. So I'm going to quit Firefox. I don't even know that is showing on the other side. Okay. So Abraham, do you want to say something in a minute, or I should just move on? But your work is fine. That's the interesting part of it.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I was on two levels of Alemaba.
It's echoing. Do you have two devices connected to the network? Oh, you have two devices. So you're going to mute one of those devices. Just mute one of them and unmute the one you're going to use to speak. So mute one of them and let one speak for you. So I'm going to mute one for you and then now speak. And then we're going to hear you. Speak now.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, right.
Yeah. In this novel, the author uses child narrators
Okay.
to narrate the story, and the story is for adults. So we want to test, or want to evaluate if really the author, how faithful was the author in using the child narrator's voice and the feelings, the sentiments. Did he really succeed in using a child voice?
Okay.
Although it can also be done uh, through reading the text, but we also want to test it using Voyant tools and Spyral to see if the author is really faithful in using the child voice and the sentiment, that child feeling, if it really portrays it. So that is the nature of the work we want to
Project.
look at.
And you made mention of sentiment.
Yeah.
So you're going to do some kind of sentiment analysis too, right?
Yes, we'll do sentiment analysis.
Voyant has built-in sentiments, and it's the same thing in Spyral. And then if you attend the lecture or watch the video of Professor Rockwell's lecture on Tuesday, there was a good explanation on the sentiment analysis. But you can always reach out for support as you're exploring that, and look forward to. All right, Prof, please.
Yeah, I was just I was going to reinforce what you said, that we have this categories tool. So you could go out, but the positive and negative categories that we have built in are for English. So for French, you would want to go on the internet and see if somebody has put together, there's probably some linguist has put together a list of positive and negative words. So you could create your own positive and negative categories. But another thing that I would suggest, if what you're doing is you're sort of comparing the language, if you went through your text and basically extracted all the text which is the narrator, and then all the text which are the different characters, the adult characters and the child characters. So you create three documents, sort of narrator, adult characters, and child document. Then you could start running comparisons between those two. And the other thing you do, we have a measurement in Voyant. If you just give me a moment here, I will. We have a measurement of linguistic complexity, um, which measures, I think, the numbers of words per sentence. And you can also measure things like the length of the words and stuff like that. So you could sort of try to measure how adult the language is by trying to find a good algorithm. There's probably a linguistics algorithm that will tell you, well, I mean, I would imagine in French, just like in English, that the if the average sentence is longer, it's a more adult text. And if the average word is longer, and another thing that people will talk about is the hapax legomena. How many words only occur once? A text that has a lot of words that only occur once or only occur twice tends to be a more complex text because it's going to have a richer vocabulary. So anyway, I just give that as examples of things that you might be able to use to do this study, and I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. And so
Thank you, Prof.
we that's going to help you. And thanks, that's the importance
Yes.
of bringing up your project so that you'll be able to get this. And then that's going to enhance, especially you're working in French. So let's look at some other people who have also indicated interest in getting feedback from Prof. And then you just have a minute to talk to your project. So you just say what it's all about, and then I will be scrolling from my side. I will open it from my side. And so Reggie Moore, I think is your turn. So I have your project loaded now. You can take a minute to just talk about what you want to do and what the project is all about.
Yeah. So the purpose from the new Zimbabwe media policy that has been released this year, 2025. So I would like to analyze how different is this policy from the previous policies in as far as allowing a democratic space, and also look at the undertones of uh, autocracy in it. How is it opening or closing the media space? Because it is to do with the media. Yeah.
That's interesting. And I could see you have 7,523 words from your corpus. And I think it's one document. So you can see from the summary too. And then I'm trying to look at words that are trained in there. So which using the train tool. So if you put up the train tool, you're going to see, okay, Zimbabwe policy, national media and information. So those are but you see how it trains across the clusters. And so I know that you have more interpretation and explanation, but just the exploration looks interesting, the document time. So this looks like an interesting work. The text, you flesh up the abstracts and the documentation so that by the time we'll be able to see it, hopefully by tomorrow you have something already elaborate. Thank you very much. This is a good contribution. Prof, any feedback to Regimo?
Yeah, this is going to be difficult for Voyant to give you a clear comparison. I assume that you have the different policies. Each what you probably want to do is to create a corpus with each policy being a one document, and you want to name your documents with the year of the policy at the beginning so that they sort chronologically. And then what you could do is if you can find some words that indicate different issues. There might be some words like the word democratic, for example. You might find that the word democratic goes up, the relative frequency goes up or down, or it could be that the policy from 1970 has a lot of uses the word democracy a lot. But there will be other words that will probably be more specific, like the words that are specific to the policy. I don't know, censorship or control, or I mean, I don't know enough about the media ecology of your, what the language is, but there'll probably be some very interesting terms that may be specific. The policy from 1990 introduces the idea of a commission or something like that, and so you can show how all of a sudden we get this media commission or so, a broadcast commission that and for that matter, you might even have some digital words. It could be the more recent one could have all sorts of language about digital media that doesn't exist in the previous ones. And then you could graph that. So you could show it you could really show how this sort of explosion of digital words happens in the more recent, maybe 1990s it starts, and then all of a sudden you start getting a lot more digital words in the most recent one. Is that useful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I like especially dimension of the digital because when I listened to the minister who launched this, he was talking about the idea that they want also to regulate the use of AI. So I would also want to look at all those changes. What are they saying in as far as AI is concerned in the media?
Yeah. And you could also compare the policy. You could gather newspaper editorials about the policy. You could also
Yeah,
gather press briefings from the minister. And then you could compare
yeah,
a three-way comparison, the policy versus what the media is saying about it, because the media might be very critical, especially if there's a lot of regulation
yeah,
that they don't like. And then you could also
yeah,
see what the minister is saying in his press briefings. He can be very positive, and you could show the different stakeholders.
Okay.
yeah. Thank you very much, Prof,
Um,
for those comments. They really helped me.
all right. Thanks. And then we go to the next person. I think 1 minute each person. So we're having Joseph. So Joseph, I'm going to pull up your work now. And I think all the URLs that you loaded are working now. So let me say, share my screen back. And okay. So, okay, and pull that up. Okay, so just have to take it off from there. Your corpus is loaded and named as Igbo marriage and the document. So tell us about what the project is all about, and what you want to achieve and what you're doing. Please go ahead, 1 minute.
Okay, the project is just to study the traditional marriage in Igbo 5 states to discover the cultural shifts over time in traditional marriage, whether the modern state or the educational system what it affects in our traditional marriage, whether they have been improved or not. Then secondly, I will also like to check the collocation analysis on the corpus, and also to the cooperative cultural analysis at the end of the day. That's what I will run to check the corpus to determine if there is any shift in the cultural heritage in our tradition.
Augustine, would you like me to
Yes,
comment a little
please,
bit on
please.
this?
Yes. They're actually they're presenting it to get the comments from you. Yes.
Great. So I think if you look at the tools that Augustine is loading, he's loading two tools that I think allow you to examine the language. And this is a common thing that people do with Voyant, where you have language like the word traditional. So right in that display there, the word tree, you can see, Augustine, could you click on traditional?
Okay, traditional, yeah.
No, go back up, go
Okay,
back up.
in
The word
this
tree,
one.
yeah, click
Okay.
there. And so one of the things you can see, and you need to move scroll the screen a little bit, you can see the words that appear before traditional marriage. So you can sort of, that's one way to explore. Now you need to click in the middle of yeah, there you are. And if is there something interesting? Buried, you might click buried and see so you can begin to sort of explore different versions of the phrase traditional marriage. Now, Augustine, can you scroll down to the next panel?
Okay.
So here's another tool that you can use. And Augustine, what I'd like you to do is to hold down the control key and click on traditional.
Okay.
Hold down the control key.
Yeah.
Are you on a PC or on a Mac?
Mac. So I use command and I click on traditional.
Not command, but control.
Okay,
The
control.
control.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, no. You clicked too fast. Go back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. This one is hard to navigate.
Okay. Let me. Okay.
So you see that screen right there. So if you hold down the control key and click on any word in the links screen, you get this choice. You can remove words. So this screen, you can build a semantic web, a sort of a map of the semantics, and you can customize it as you want. So you can create something that'll look nice in a paper. So you can remove words that are irrelevant. But in this case, if you click Fetch Collocates, Augustine, click Fetch Collocates, the
Okay.
first one, and then keep on clicking that. Yeah. So, and now get rid of it, click outside.
Okay.
So what it's doing, and maybe grab traditional and drag it over to the side.
Okay.
So you can begin to see the different words that co-locate, and you can begin to drag them around until you get something that makes that illustrates the point that you're trying to make about this. Does that make sense, Joseph, as a way? So this one is you're not proving something, but you can use the whole collocates link graph to sort of build a picture of the linkages of the words. And Augustine, I would drag some of the words that co-locate with traditional, drag them to the left, so that no, not to the right, to the
Okay.
left.
To
Sorry,
left.
the other direction. Yeah.
Okay.
So just you can start dragging them out
Oh, Agbo.
to the other side of
Agbo.
traditional.
Okay. Agbo. Whatever
Yeah,
it's. Okay.
Obo.
Agbo. Okay. And
That's the name of a town.
oh, so that you can, okay. That means you can do name entity recognition too, Prof, on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know how well often these tools work better in English than with the names of places in other languages, but it can use the grammar. The last thing, I don't know, Augustine, if you want to show the collocates tool.
Okay, so I should put up, does it have, okay, let me create a cell for that. Collocate. Collocate.
No, go back up. It's uh,
Collocate.
corpus colloquiet. Try
Okay,
that one.
corpus collocate. Okay. And where am I?
So, and then down in the field below, in the little field, just type in the word traditional.
Okay, traditional. I think. Oh,
Yep. Click there. Did you click?
yes, I click, and everything on the times are traditional now. What collocate?
Well, your screen hasn't updated. It seems to have frozen.
On
I'm
my
seeing.
screen. So let me stop sharing and reshare. Uh, oh, that's true. Um, so okay, reshare the screen and go back. All right. Is it
So
better?
there you are. Now you can see all the words that co-locate with the word traditional.
Traditional.
And you can sort them and you can actually control the context. So words that co-locate, you can ask for the context of collocation to be one. If you ask for one word, you'll just get the words immediately before and after. If you ask for two, you'll get a little bit more context and you can sort of expand and control that. And we see words that you would expect: wedding, ceremony, practices, customs. And then, Joseph, one of the things you can begin to do is to explore, you might explore some bigrams. You can just explore things like traditional ceremony, traditional practices, and see get the context for traditional practices and see how are people talking about traditional practices.
Interesting. Um, okay, that's good. And Joseph,
Yeah, thank you so much.
okay, so that has empowered. So we move to the next person. So let me see what I have here. Um, okay, maybe I should open from my system. Any other
Augustine,
support?
while you're finding that, can you let me show something
Okay,
from
that would be great.
before?
Okay,
I'm just going to show I'm going to show the issue of language complexity and how you can use. So here I'm in the Austin corpus, and I think it was the gentleman who was working with French, and I'm going to just go into the documents tool. Well, I don't need to launch it, but here you see the documents tool has two columns here. One is called ratio and one is called words per sentence. The ratio is the ratio of types to tokens. Now here, this is a linguistic term. A type is a token is each individual word. So if the word banana shows up 10 times, you have 10 tokens, but you only have one type. So one type of word. And the ratio of types to tokens tells you something about the linguistic richness of the text. So the higher the ratio, so Lady Susan and Love and Friendship have a higher type token ratio, which means that there's more words, more different types of words relatively speaking, than Northanger Abbey and Persuasion. So this would give you one measurement of how adult the text is. Likewise, words per sentence is also going to tell you. So, this is Austin. She writes quite a few words per sentence. Interestingly, as she gets older, she seems to have fewer and fewer words per sentence. Her sentences get shorter and shorter. And you might, if you separate out the discourse, the narrator from the adults from the children, you might find that the children have a lower words per sentence and a lower type token ratio. Let me see if we have anything else. Any other No, that's it. So anyway, these are just two measurements which should work in French. And of course, with French, you have the problem with type that you'll have a verb, but all sorts of different conjugations. So it may the measurement may not be quite the same as accurate as in English, but it'll still give you something interesting. So I'm going to stop there, and thank you, Augustine, for giving me a moment to just touch base on that.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that. And this is very important aspect of the hackathon, so that your project, you have something to publish, something to be able to work on. So not all the feedback. We may not be able to take everyone project today, but we'll just take a few more. I think, let me see, Ozioma, and Abel. I think Abel wants to also talk about his own project. So let me open a Spyral notebook. Okay, let me open the one that is so Ozzy Omar. So look for the file climate. Okay, all right. And then open that. So you can 1 minute is okay. So you can just talk about, okay, you have your corpus loaded and your research. Please go ahead, Ozioma, and tell us the research you're working on. Okay, so you have the corpus. Let me run that. Ozioma, are you there? Do you want to go ahead and tell us about the project? I think I'm using the local host. Oh, your network is bad, so you might need to come back. And Abel, do you want to go with your own? Even I'll put that up, or you quickly take it up. Abel. Abel, do you want to talk about your project?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the project. We haven't gone quite far yet, but basically what we want to do here is to see how we can map identity and how users of the internet, particularly social media, use sentiments, particularly biases that are driven by hate speech or tribal references. And usually, this is found amongst younger people who want to prove a point about themselves, the us versus other kind of behavior, where you have a general issue, perhaps maybe a trendy issue that people are supposed to comment on.
Noise. What's the noise? There's a background noise.
Yeah.
Not obstructing. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to be sure you're fine.
Yeah, I've sorted it out. So basically, it has to do with the issue of comments that are made on social media that reveal other things other than the topic that is to be discussed. So people use topics to, the trendy topic to express ideologies, issues of identity, issues of social relationships. So we want to use a comment trend thread on social media, Facebook, Twitter, to do a discourse analysis of how people bring into conversations ideologies that sometimes they don't even know are embedded in them. So just looking at language beyond the sentence, looking at motivation, sentiments, and so on. So that's basically what this project seeks to address. So we would have to get information majorly from social media posts, particularly on any trendy topic, and then we'll see what the comments are, the thread of the comments. We hope to unravel some of the hidden ideologies and identity that people give to themselves and others. So it's like the us versus other, or me versus other kind of situation in comments thread on social media. Yeah.
Okay, I think Prof can.
Yeah, so social media analysis. I should first of all say that there's a lot of other tools out there for social media analysis, especially things like sentiment analysis. There are some algorithms, you can probably find stuff for Python that is optimized for sentiment analysis of Twitter or X or other social media. Because
You can mute yourself now. You are, if your background is noisy. Sorry.
I think it's Regamore is unmuted for a moment there. There we
Okay.
go. So the thing about social media posts is that they're so short that standard ways of doing social media sentiment analysis are harder to do because there's relatively little language and it's often cryptic. What I tend to do when I use Voyant on social media to do social media, and I can show you, I think I shared a notebook. If you just give me a moment, I will go off and find it where we were looking at Trump's social media analysis. Just give me a moment and I can find it.
Okay.
So, and what I tend to do is I'm often interested in sort of diachronic analysis. So I take the social media and I start with a spreadsheet. And if I can share my screen, let me see. I will try to first just find the spreadsheet so you can see what I do with it. Grants, CFREF, Trump. Uh, okay, I'm going to share my screen. It'll just take a moment here. So here you should see an Excel spreadsheet. And what I did is I've got the full date here in sort of year, month, day format. But then what I did is I marked I just did this manually, but you could do it with a Python code is I basically created a column in which I have each month and I have them, just numbered one period January, two February, something like that. So this allows me to group by month, and then I can sort of look at the progression. So I'm going to switch now to the Spyral notebook. I can look at the progression. I can group it by months. So when I bring the spreadsheet in, I can bring it in and set the group by feature to months. So here you can see I've got my corpus has one document for each month. Because when you do social media, if you have hundreds of social media posts or thousands, it becomes very hard to, 1,000 documents. It's very hard for Voyant to do anything. In fact, Voyant's not very good when you have thousands of social media. So that's why I tend to lump it by month. And then I can begin exploring it. So here I'm looking at terms. So just like what you're talking about, I start looking for this is Trump. I'm looking for words, he's talking about immigration. The word illegal shows up, criminals, Biden, This was something I didn't expect. He's often, when he's talking about immigration, he often compares what he does to what Biden did before. So he's fascinated with Biden. And then because I have it organized sort of diachronically, I can look at the word criminals and illegals. I can look at words over time. So this might be interesting to you because if you have particularly interesting words, you can sort of enter them in and see if there's a sort of shift over time. Sometimes there might be some issue that crops up, and everybody is all of a sudden talking about, a soccer game or something like that. It also here you see the corpus collocates. So I've taken the words immigrants, migrant, and alien, and I'm looking at what words co-locate with that. Crashers, Venezuela, unvetted, schools, released. What are the words that co-locate? How are they talking about the other? In this case, Trump, the other is the migrants and the immigrants. And what words does he use in the neighborhood of those? And what am I doing here? Here I'm looking at the context. So I'm looking at, I'm just actually reading the keyword in context, which is useful. Then I do something, I think I showed this before. I want to pull out the named entities, the people, and I'm gonna sort it by weight, and you see that Joe Biden, and Sleepy Joe is used 18 times. Whereas Trump only talks about himself 3 times, and Newscom, by the way, is the governor of California is Newscom, C-O-M, and no Newsom, Trump never refers to him by his proper name. He always uses this insulting name, Newscum. So you can see how and he does the same thing here for Gavin. Sorry, I'm going to expand this. It's Newscum or Gavin Newscum. So he refers to this is another one of his others, his enemies. So you can sort of show using this named entity, you could sort of extract who are the people that these youth are talking about. Now, some of them will not be, in this case, it's because it's about immigration. These are all people by and large that he is critical of. But some of them are actually Marco Rubio, even Scheinbaum, he talks about positively. And this is an example here of what Augustine was showing, where you can use this. I wanted to see the word Biden. You can sort of build this sort of network, and you see how you can sort of arrange it until it looks the way you want, and then you export it so it looks pretty in your paper. Holding down the control key, I can fetch more collocates. Uh, I can, so here we have other ones, illegal. So you can see the sort of words that are co-locating with with Biden. Now the word let is not that interesting, so I am going to remove it. The word millions is because Trump is always talking about how Biden let millions of people in, and he's stopping this entirely. And the word America is similar, but I'm going to remove that. Yeah, so you can sort of see how you can build this semantic picture of, if you will, of some of the words that might be interesting to you. I'm going to stop there. I hope that was useful. Oh, and I should put I'll put there's the link if you want to go in and look at what I was doing. I think you're muted, Augustine.
Oh, sorry. Abel, does that give direction to the research?
Absolutely, absolutely it does. I mean, I remember the first time he spoke about it, I was excited about it because it just pointed me in the direction I wanted. I knew something was not very easy about doing or capturing social media or posts or getting data on social media. So this is really helpful. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, so quickly, we take Ozioma was trying to present before, but she's struggling with her internet, and so we quickly take some people who's we don't need to pull up the slides, but we just take it so that we move very fast. Who else is missing? Who has not discussed? Joseph Kunoji. So well is okay, is log out again. Okay, so let's go to today's work, and tomorrow those who have not presented or those who have not had a chance to get feedback will be able to present and get feedback from Prof. Anything in the chat so that I will know? Okay, that was from Prof. So let's move on. So I'm going to share my screen. So today we want to look at other visualizations. You have been creating visualization in Spyral using the built-in function. So you say .tool, and so you call your corpus, and then you say .tool, and it gives you the visualization that you want. So most of the visualizations are built in functions that are in Voyant tool that you are calling and that are coming up. But there are also other forms of charts that you can do in Voyant that are not part of those built-in functions like the trained and other things. So one of the things we may take a look at today is to look at them and see how do you incorporate it into the research you are currently doing to improve some of the explanation you'll be giving when you are presenting your work in showing the insights and what we can say interpretation you are giving to your research. All right, so what I would do now is I would just go through the slide first and then take some few examples. The full screen slideshow. Okay, so so when there's something we call the eye chart. Eye chart is basically it's like you are calling, an independent model that is not part of Spyral Voyant tools visualization, but have been incorporated into Voyant tools, and which you can call in the Spyral to be able to generate bar charts and bar pie charts and other charts that are available before. And the only thing is that it might require that you, unlike the what we can say the charts in Spyral, that when you say .trend or any of those tools that give you visualization, you didn't set so much. You only set some of the parameters, and even if you don't set, it still come up and give you the interface. But this one, you might need to explicitly state what the x-axis is, what the y-axis is, and state your title. And then we're going to show a template tutorial that you can adapt to fit your own. The same thing with line charts and pie charts. And so let's go straight to the demonstration so that we won't. So this is a notebook prepared by one of the Voyant consortium team member, Rian Cartier, and what it's trying to do here is to use the eye chart to create what we can say entity recognitions that are embedded in, oh, someone is out, okay. So to create entity recognitions that are embedded in a particular novel. And then I know that you know what is going on here. So you know the corpus in, and then apply this particular, what we can say, particular function, which is the entity. And you know that in Voyant tools, under the readers, when we do the entity recognition, which is the name entity recognition. So some of you, when you were presenting your project, you also talk about using them. So you see, you use .entities for your tool, and then the annotator is using, we have many other we have three modules that can do the name entity recognition for you. So spaCy is what it put here, and then it's assigning whatever it extracts to the entity's variable. And it is this entity variable that it moves to the next column to write some JavaScript code, which is able to say, extract and filter out locations from that novel. So locations, and then you see the locations are assigned here. So you see the assignment. So whatever is filtered out from here, from the entire thing, this is like taking entities that were extracted, looking for the places that are there, and doing some cleanup and asking it to put it, and at the end of everything, assign it to a variable called entity. And as you say, Prof said yesterday, which we also talk about variables, where you can put all the things that you are. So now it's now going to call location exists now as a variable containing something. And here, this is an interesting part of Spyral, which is a table. And the table 2 this time around, which you can call. Let's say, for instance, this may be the first time we are talking about the table 2. So let's say, for instance, you go to the data and you call a table. There are different ways in which you can it's either you bring that table as a CSV file, or whether you bring it as a variable. So what he has done here is, since he has filtered out names of places from that corpus, he assign it into location, and this time around, location is a variable, so it's now working still within what we call it, within the Spyral notebook. And this is an interesting way. You see the transition from a corpus that does not have that you have not, is just containing a lot of words. Listen, it can be a corpus containing names of places in Igbo land. It can be in Zimbabwe, of the corpus Regimo is working on. It can be of ethnicity that Abel is working on. But you have them inside the corpus, but you can begin to assign entities and be able to get a table from the variable. So that was exactly what it did here. So that's the first time of using the variable table, and you can try to exploit. It's so interesting. I mean, the table feature, which is one of the newest features in Spyral. And now he has brought in from the variable, brought in the location variable, which now give him. So from that corpus, or the corpus that he's working on, you can see that you see the terms of locations from the extraction and how many times from the raw frequency that they were. And then you can see the country code. You can see it's using this GPE to be able to give us the country code. And now from the data set, it has what we can say a kind of a tabular form that can go into visualization. And one of the things about textual analysis in Digital-Humanities is, this transition from corpus to counting things and tabulating them, and after tabulating them and making your visualization is something very interesting and very easy to do here. And now it comes to the data name, which this data that has now been assigned to a particular table is now coming to assign it a name called country code. So which means part of the variables that contain things that we're going to use, in the chart has already been made. So we have the country code, which is going to give us the country code. We have the locations. And so for here, you can see in the documentation, which as you remember on Monday, when Professor Rockwell was introducing the Voyant and Spyral, it talks about literate programming. So literate programming is, even the step is taken, you can read that in the documentation. And I will enjoy most of all the cells that we have also in our own notebook. We should try to have a text before each of them to explain what you are doing. Like most of what you explained today, even when you were giving your presentation, you can put it in your notebook. This is what I intend doing here. Oh, this is what I now. so that anyone, when you share your notebook and when you have that, they'll be able to understand. And that's the whole essence of Spyral in literary studies. Now, let's move to the next thing that is now doing, is now like graph data. Now, you see, like I explained before, that iChart is like a library, somewhere else that we are going to fetch and use it within what we call it, within Spyral Notebook. And now it's bringing it in to come here, and you notice he assigned a name to topology, so which is the map that we are coming up with, so the chart. And that here comes in spiral.chart.map, which is the method we is using here. It passed in those, what we call it, those variables, and it assigns them, give them the title. And you see, when I was sharing the slide, I talk about these are just few things that we need to just tidy up on our own, so that whatever we give a naming to the x-axis, y-axis, and how I want to be. And at the end of the day, is able to have a geospatial analysis of, you call topology. So iChart contains a lot of charts, as many as possible that you will have. If you check the ADH lab, the classroom where we have all the slides, you will see a slide that contains all types of visualization that you can call, within Spyral Notebook, making reference to iChart and generating that from there. So for this time around, is able to do the geomapping of those identified places, location in Frankenstein's novel. I'll just pause here and see if you have this notebook, for instance, is this something that you think going through this, you can adapt it to your own research? And if you're going to adapt it, if you face any error, you feel free to reach out to us. Any questions so far? So that before I move to the notebook I prepared for today's lecture. Any question? Do we have any question, contribution, queries for what we have done?
Well, looking in the chat, we have not seen anything yet, so it means everything is fine. So you can write on, sir.
All right, sir. Okay, so we move on to. So today I actually prepared a visualization.
Oh, sorry. There's a question. Sorry. There's a question here by Regimore.
All right.
I think he was asking a question about using Voyant for Instagram hashtag analysis to find out the pattern of influencers.
Okay, so that was addressed to Professor when you were when he was giving a presentation on the. So please, Prof, maybe we can take that before we move to.
Sorry, I was muted there. Can we use Voyant for Instagram hashtag analysis to find out the pattern of influencers? To be honest, this is where I would go to Python or just straight JavaScript, because what you're going to be doing. So first of all, you've got to get the Instagram data. And I don't know a lot about Instagram. I'm assuming if it has an API, you can get the data. And then you'll get it in the form of you'll get it in the form of a CSV or something like that. So you might have for what you probably want in some sense is to get a table in which you have each person and who they are influenced by or something like that, and who influences them. And then I would you can within Spyral you could use social network analysis to build a graph, but to be honest, this isn't going to use Voyant at all. It's really just you're just going to be writing code in JavaScript, and you can do it just as easily in Python. Or a really cool tool when it comes to doing social network analysis is Gephi. I will put the name of Gephi in the because it's not spelled the way you would expect it. And Gephi is another free sort of, it's a tool. I've met the developer of Gephi, and the two of us have talked about trying to join Gephi. And but it's a free tool. It's built by researchers for researchers. It takes a table in and it does all sorts of social network analysis. And Gephi will support a much larger number of nodes than anything you could do in Spyral. It's really designed for those large scale sort of social network graphs where you see all sorts of stuff going on. I unfortunately have to go. I have another meeting. And so, Augustine, thank you so much for organizing this. And I really loved seeing the different projects and having a conversation about it. So for any of you who want to get feedback, whether or not you've already presented or not, I'll be here tomorrow and I'm happy to answer more questions. So I'm going to say goodbye. Sorry, I have to run.
Thank you, Prof. See you tomorrow. Okay, so we take it off from where we stopped. And so one of the other aspects apart from name entity recognition that has been done here is the other one which I will talk about. I can share that in the chat. Will be another one that you can apply to some of the projects that were presented today. You can adapt the codes there and that's more or less still on name entity recognition, but this time around for those like that of Patience project, where you have a lot of documents that you're analyzing, and these documents, you really want to talk about the years of publications or do some kind of comparative analysis from them. So this is where this particular notebook will be very important for you. So I will just go through it, and then you can open it on your side too and flip through it and say, okay, how do I apply? One of the major things you would like to do if you want to apply it is to put your corpus ID into this place. And once you put your corpus ID into this where Shakespeare is, obviously you run it, is going to give you is going to assign documents to each of the documents that are there. And one of the things we did is it make a variable publication year. So from that corpus, it's extracting the years of publication. And what we have here is the years of publication are extracted in an array. And after that, formatting the metadata. So most times you may not touch this one because it's just normal thing that you can apply, and it will apply to the years of publication already in your own data set. And after that, it talks about the counting to be able to see how many times, were things published within that range. And then we have some contextual data that you can apply here, which is more or less like what are the major events. And the researcher here, the goal of this particular notebook where the person is presenting for this research is to be able to show within the span of 1598 and 1603, look at major events, and those events, what are the consequences or what are the other activities or things or publications and works that are around that particular event, historical event. And then straight away, you go to the Spyral chart.create. And as I said, you just customize it with what you want the x-axis and what the y-axis will be. And here comes in the number of play published each year. And you can see that the events that is being tracked, the 2 events that have been tracked, which he put here as a line to be able to track that amidst the publications that are here. And this is a list of years of publications of Shakespeare's work and how some publications intersect with historical events. So this is just basically to make us to think about, when I have my corpus, can I extract the years of things that are going on? It could be an historical event. It could be, NSAS occurred at this period. What were the other events that were happening at that time that could have led to this? So this is causal relationship. What are the books published? What are the major political? So these are things that we can reflect and see how does this comes into play? And then it's also able to get their numbers of publications. So if you see in 1590, one publication, Shakespeare has one publication, and it was able to, he wrote a lot immediately after this global theater was erected. And that really is really a kind of a confirmation for a claim that somebody want to make. Obviously, Shakespeare writes play for demonstration. So in 1598, the global theater was erected, and then boom. But the questions that comes in, and those are some of the things that when you're working on your work, you note down. These visualizations are meant to spark your what we can say your research ideas and some kind of observation. What not happened afterwards that it stopped writing or it went down again after this particular, then we should be able to say, should we track events or what should we do? And this visualization, even though it involves all this code which you can edit to suit your own interest and bring into your own work, there are things that I would just highlight. That one thing that is doing the visualization is just this built-in function in Spyral this time around. I told you there are two ways to create extra visualization in Spyral Notebook. Is either you use the eye chart or you use the chart create. And so I just put this particular column here to show that this is what you can do on your own. Any corpus that you have or any table that you are able to bring into Spyral, so far as you have a particular column that you can say this is this column, and then you're able to assign it a title, and you're able to say these are the things from this column that goes to my x-axis, and you give your series, it will chart it. So I just put A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3 to be able to also demonstrate that most times it does not involve a lot of lines of code. And when you practice this, you get better. Any question on this? Because the next one I'm going to is a large research. And I know a lot of people are thinking of a large data set research. And as Professor Rockwell said, some of all these things we do in Spyral Notebook, it's good to start using the built-in functions and features. But with time, like maybe before we meet next year, when you'll have learned JavaScript on your own, and you'll be able to write JavaScript to be able to create, or it could be Python that you could use. Though for me, on my own part, I try to learn both Python and JavaScript, and I use both of them for test analysis. When it comes to JavaScript, when you're using it in Spyral Notebook, because Spyral Notebooks allow JavaScript, it allows powerful interactive visualization, and it's simple that you can share with your colleagues. It's not so heavy. But if it's Python is good with data science, counting data, but it's not as good data science and machine learning, but it's not as good as JavaScript when it comes to visualization. And visualization is beautiful in Spyral because we're using a DOM, which is a browser's interface, and which allows all sorts of interactive adjustment that you can bring into it. Without much ado, if there's no question, I will go straight to the research that we create just as demonstration for this particular one. Any question or concerns or some kind of input? Anybody? Hello? Any questions? Anything inspiring from the explanation so far? Okay, so I move on. This particular project is going to use iChat, and the goal is, this Digital-Humanity Quarterly. You have to know Digital-Humanity Quarterly because it's a very renowned journal in Digital-Humanities, and you might want to. So let me go back to this one and just use that browser. Digital-Humanities Quarterly. Digital-Humanities Quarterly. So it's a very popular journal, published by the Alliance for Digital-Humanities. Alliance for Digital-Humanities is like all digital humanities organizations across the world. And when you published in DHQ, I mean, it's like you are made in digital humanities. And one of the things is most of the papers you're working on, you can think of having your most powerful DH publication by sending it to also to Digital Humanity Quarterly, or we can get an issue for Digital Humanity that will feature some of the collections of the paper. So let's have our fingers crossed. But what I'm doing here is like, you see all the previous publications that are here, right? They're all here. And if you come here and you go to about DHQ, you realize that they have been publishing these since what we call it, since 2007. But they make it open source. Open source means that you can have access to all of the publication at once, and get them downloaded. So what I want to do in this particular research will be to ask a fundamental question. What have we been publishing? What have we been publishing over the years? There are many questions you can ask. I can, if you have this corpus, I can give access to it. And when you have access to it, you can also use it for something else. It's a large corpus. If you need access, you can drop in the chat, then I can send to you privately, and then you can be able to have access. You can ask other questions. Are there Africans who have published? Have they published about Africa? Are there some notable, you can do name entities, look at, are there some notable scholars? So this is not just about publication, but also about giving us access to turn what we can say is hundreds of thousands of publications over the years to a data set. And that is the exact data sets that are brought here. And I'm saying, let's exploit what are the things that has been published over the years here in the Digital-Humanity Quarterly. And we want to do that. But one thing is, when I want to get the data set, you can, the data set were extracted as XML. And you will talk about XML. So you can see, if you come here you can download the data set. So getting the DHQ, which means all this publication. So you can zip it as an XML file. So if I click on this, it's going to get on my system, and then you're going to have it as an XML file. So if I click on this, so it's zipped as what we call it. So it's zipped, and then I have all of them. So each person's publication is an XML file. And as I said, we have various types of files that we can import. You have an importing text and all sorts of things into. So let's see, how many publications do we have? People's publication. So we have 846, obviously, 846 publication. And then if you open this particular data set, so let's say we open it with BBEdit. So let's just open it. You can open it with any notepad. This is how XML is all about, how XML look like. So it's going to be saying, there's the title of the particular, what we call it, article. This is the author, and this is the university of the author. This is the abstract from the author, the bio of the author. And so it contains a lot of information that we could digitize and also use to. And when it's structured in XML format, it makes it easier for us to pass, to assemble. Like the other time, you see the corpus of Frankenstein, the author extracted names of places. The Shakespeare, in the what we call it, in the Spyral notebook, we extracted the years of those article publication. But in this time around, you have a lot of things you can extract from this, and then you have access to this data set. Now, it is exactly this data set that I match straight into this particular notebook. And after moving it into the notebook, I got this ID. So you can see this ID. So if you have this ID, you can also see the data set. So I can drop this in the chat too, and If I drop that in the chat. So if you drop this in any of your Jupyter notebook, just for the sake of exploration, once you just have this, we assign the corpus DHQ. You can do all sorts of things with DHQ too. And you can also play with the data set and you can publish. One person use the data does not mean another person does not use because it's open. It's where the problem comes in is if you take another person's data set, like people are presented today, they talk about their data set, you can't take their data set to its copyright. They have to accept you take permission from them. Now this corpus is already here, and this is where the JavaScript skills comes in, because one of the things that I have to do is I have to extract the years of publication, build the table as we did in the other one. So we extract the years of publication, build the table, and then look at the article per year. That's the next step I try to do here. Look at the article per year, but don't worry about my code. I wish we have a way to hide it, because there's a logic that anything can happen. Even if once you have a logic of what you want to achieve, you can ask anything to get the code for you. AI can write the code for you. So don't worry so much about the code, but what this one does is to ensure that we have different categories of articles. When you submit a paper for journal, what are the type of articles that you submit? And that is one of the things that we have at the end of the day. What are the articles per year? That was the first question I have to ask from that data set. And then you see from the data sets, in 2007, when the journal was first published, you realize that the number of articles that were published is less than 20. Then 2008, and then 2009, and then we have it, coming up like that. Now, the data set that I use for this Riaza is not the recent one, so it's the one, it stopped at 2020 during the COVID. That was when I downloaded the data set, but I can still upload the new one that I just downloaded and put that. So what it has in 2018, there was so much of publication, 2019 decline. But what happened in 2020, 2021, those are questions that you can answer. Imagine I've used this and I've published this particular work. If you can do a follow-up publication and say gap in literature. And the next thing, the next visualization that we do, you remember from here, you remember this part, which I would say you should hold on to. That's the most important for someone who is starting up with JavaScript, is the spiral.charts.create that brings everything out at the end of the day. Other things that we're doing is normalizations, data cleaning, and all that kind of a thing to prepare the data for the question we're asking. The next question we're asking is which type of article are here? And that's one of the things that we say we want to get a pie chart. And so whatever this one has done here is more or less like cleaning, preparing, and extracting the exact information that we need. Which of this article that was submitted to DHQ is a journal, a review, or whatever. And then afterwards, we store that. We use the spiral.charts.create to do the magic that we want to have. And then you can see that of all the articles that were submitted over the years since 2007, the numbers of reviews, numbers of opinion, front matter, editorials, case study, and then the rest are just articles. Now, the next question you're going to ask, and that is one of the things that drives data-driven sort of a research in the Digital-Humanities. You write down some questions you want to ask from the data, and you will say, what method can I use? What tool can I use? And within a paper, you can use more than one tool, but here we're still using the eye chart because Spyral allows us to be able to do that. And then we take the corpus back again, and then we're saying, now the authors. And you realize that these things are possible. Why? Because every information is here. We have the information is structured. And when you join Alliance for Digital-Humanity, for instance, you will see some forerunning scholars who are more or less one of those people who are considered godfathers and godmothers of Digital-Humanities. The first thing that they try to work on is, if we want to be analyzing data in the humanities, unlike social science and others, we have to be able to have a structure, a way which we call the TI encoding, initiative encoding. So you can see that the structure enables us to be able to say, okay, is it the author we're looking for? Is it the years of publication? Because each of them are in separate tags that we can call. And that is exactly what we want to do here. We want to look at who are the top authors and which chart do we want to use? Look at the Spyral Create chart. We're using bar chart, and you can see the top authors over the years. So you're going to see Julian Nahan has published 8, has published 8 from his Anna Wedge, Gregory Crane, and like that, 6. And you see these guys, Joanna Drokal, respect. She's an expert in visualization and has published a lot on visualization in Digital-Humanities. Melissa Terras. So these are household names in Digital-Humanities, obviously. So we can't rule out the fact that they have more publication on that. And that gives us. And then the next question we ask is, what is the top 3 articles types over time? So we have talked about the article types. And this code here, what it just do there is to extract from that same script that we have. You understand? The year, the year category, and then count per year. But the most important thing, after doing those calculations that we need, then it gives us, we plot the trend. So you can see that over the years, you can see the top 3 types of articles. So you see, we have the article, review, and editorial. Obviously, from the other chart we have, we know that articles are more. But the whole thing is, how do they, even if they are more, this other graph just tells us, the pie chart tells us, articles are more, but how are they dispersed over time? And that is what we call the trend. This dispersed. The trend in Voyant as well as Spyral. It also helps us to see. So, why do we always have more articles or more reviews than editorials at times over the years? And that is importantly. So at this point, what is the goal of having iChat as well as other forms of chat in Spyral? It's for the sake of if you create this chat, for instance, in what we call it, in Collab or Jupyter Notebook, you might be shuffling between notebooks, but because you have your other analysis, let's say, for instance, some of the other analysis we might want to do to the corpus, which are built in, for instance, in Voyant, we can say, or in Spyral. So we can say DHQ dot tool, and then we can say use this particular, and then look at context. Look at context, for instance. Even though you can do some of this visualization in other forms of notebook, but you don't have the power, direct power to be using all the other without writing so much of code, having your analysis together. And then so this time around, you're having your analysis together, you are calling the built-in codes. So like now, it's just a line of code, as we said yesterday, because the codes have been written underneath the Spyral notebook. So, and you have to take note, it takes this so much time like this to pass that. Why? Because we are talking about the corpus is almost 3 million. Let me see. So it's running a 3 million corpus on the system can really take time. So what I would say is at times is I run this kind of millions, about this more than 3-point-something million on locally. So at this point, I think that addressed the whole thing about the visualizations with iChat, and we can take questions and then call it a day. And tomorrow, if there are questions, we can take. The questions can be about what has been taught today or the other things that we have been doing over the week. Tomorrow, we're going to look at presentations, the last presentations by other people who want to receive a certificate for this hackathon, and who also want to join maybe a joint publication. It could be a book publication. It could be a journal publication where we're going to have all our works together, the publications that emerge from this whole workshop. Ask any question you want to ask now, and then tomorrow we'll do some tidy up. Tomorrow, what would we have tomorrow? So Let me see. Okay. So what we have tomorrow, apart from the presentation, so tomorrow Professor Rockwell will be here, being the last day, to listen to your to other presenters and to take note of interesting work that people are doing. And okay, I'm trying to pull up the program. Okay, any question while I pull up the program? So there will any question? You can unmute yourself to ask a question. So we still have about this.
Oh, we've got a question here in the chat.
Please go ahead.
By Zishiri. The question is, can we say a trend is the same as a graph? I think she's referring to the discussion you had earlier about the chart.
Okay.
Yeah, is it the same thing, trend?
Okay.
Graph?
I mentioned trend in two instances. The first instance that we mentioned trend will be the trend tool in Spyral. So which you're all familiar with. So let me go back a little bit. So we go back to, so let's open any of the couples that we can lay hands on. Okay, so we have a couples here. Good. So we have, let's say, let's run the couples. Okay, let's look for another one. That one is running locally. Okay, Austin couples is here. So if you're referring to trend, like we have this trend too. So like trend. So this is the built-in one in Spyral as well as Voyant, and it looks at the words that are in your corpus and their frequencies and create a plot around it, or more than one plot. It can create bar, it can create line, and others. But in the example, the second time I'll be mentioning trend is the example that we just used. So let me take that again. The example for when we're talking about using the eye chart. So let me go back to that. So the example that we use for the DHQ journal. Okay. Is DHQ journal. So we talk about the trend here. Now the trend that we're talking about here is a trend created by high chart. So I really want to know which of the trend, but whatever be the case, what trends look at is the trend tool in Voyant look at words that are mostly used within the corpus. And you can also search for the words that you actually want to check the trend. But if it is just a book, it will chunk the books into what we can say segments. But if you upload more than one file, so you have uploaded about 20 novels or 20 articles by people, it's going to check the trend across. So does this person use the word government how many times more than the other? So it's going to identify those other words. That is the trend tool. But the trend here is a controlled one, and that is where the programming comes in, the JavaScript programming comes in. So we control, and we said in this particular one, we determine what we want to be a trend. So what we want to be a trend is to look at over the years. We have different types of submission to this Digital-Humanities quarterly. Over the years, how does this, based on their number, how do they actually occur? How do they? So it's like there's in 2007 articles. Like we have about less than 20 of them, and so we trained more. People submitted article more than reviewers editorial. But if you look at 2008, it's like, boom, reviews and editorials are on the same point. And that's the only time that they have the equal number of reviews and editorial. So this is the idea of trend as used in those two cases. Please, if you want to speak to your question, if I've answered it, you can just tell us if the question has been answered. And then, Tichipiwa, have we answered your question?
Thank you very much. It's now very, very clear. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, I'm not a prof. And another thing is you're presenting your paper tomorrow, so we look forward to it. And after this session, we can always talk about, if you have any glitches, we can always address that. Please, every other person, please, do we have any question or other things you want us to talk about before we call it a day? We can call it a day on time. If you have other things you want to talk about, any question, it can be with regards to chat, it can be with regards to the project you are handling and other things you're working on, or it can be with regards to your experience with your own notebook. Or you can even give a comment. Has it been within the past 4 days? So we have about 10 minutes to do that. The floor is open, except I'm talking to myself.
10 minutes or less, actually,
yes,
because
yes.
I think programmers don't like to talk much.
Yes, sir.
Just us who are language people who like to make a lot of noise that might just have the need to talk.
Okay, we agree, 10 minutes or less. So let's just have, because we are colleagues and we should be able to have this conversation, what has been going on,
Exactly. More so that we are also going to be responsible for training other people, explaining these things to other people. So it's good that we can connect at this point. If we are having challenges, it would be good to see how we can meet one another's needs halfway. I'm particularly excited that Prof was able to, speak to the works that we are all doing. It's just like what you always say about programming. The user interface usually can only be made better by the user himself or herself. The programmer just needs you to give him or her an idea of what you want, and then they can bring it to life. So talking about these codes, talking about this programming, talking about Voyant, Spyral, without connecting it to a project or connecting it to something that somebody is passionate about, might just be building castles in the air, as it were. But now that we have, something to look at and even domesticate and fit into our needs our needs as researchers, I think it even brings it home and makes everything clearer.
That's true. That's true. I agree with you. And one of the major thing is, I'll be honest with you that over the past weeks we have been learning from each other, because we're expertise in different fields, and
Right.
and what unites us together is the digital in the humanities, because these in the gathering we have very established humanities scholars. And one of the things is the digital aspect is not even the main meat, is a tool and a means to an end. So one of the things we ask ourselves is, how does that help us to be able to see deeper into the text that we are studying, and to be able to still do an aspect of the humanities and bring in our expertise. As you can see on the slide, I'm running the breakdown within of the entire event, because this is the first time we have had events in India, in other places, in Canada, among teams, members and all this, but this is the first time we're having a kind of a 10 days for scholars, people, and it's always people pay money. Like I remember in November, people pay to come to Edmonton for the training, other part of Canada and US. And then Prof traveled, for instance, to India. But for us as Africans, we we are having the longest of the whole thing. And it's because, you know, these tools have been in existence, but in Africa, we have few people who are experts, people like Reggie Moore, he knows about Voyant, but Spyral is something new. And then we become people who are going to champion it and take it to various other institutions or experts that people can call upon. And that is the whole essence. And the first thing we try to do, which you can have access to the rundown, is you have this whole thing on the first day, the prof taking it all and exposing all this, and we have the video. So if you go, for instance, if you go to African Digital-Humanities.ca, and then you go to the dashboard, and then you realize that for this particular edition, we create a particular place where you can see, and you click on curriculum. So each of the days, there's all this reporting of what is going on. So like you see, for instance, on Monday, so Daniel Adesanya, who is one of our colleagues here, is doing a good job uploading them. So you see the video for Monday, so you can go through them, some of all this thing, because on Monday, it was basically dwelled on exploring the notebook, the concept, you know, saving, creating, and editing your notebook, and extending Voyant to Spyral, which a lot of people here have succeeded in doing on their own. So you don't just have the video, which you can play from here and watch, but you also have the slide, which you can flip through. We can flip through. So these are lifetime resources. There's no charge. It's just coming to the portal, and we call it African DH Lab, because so that we need to promote digital humanities studies in Africa, so that we can be able to have all over the world, almost all humanities have turned digital. And when you want to publish, they will ask you, where is the data? You don't have the data. So the name Digital Humanity is not anything. It's in the Western world. It is just the normal humanity, but driven by data. If you don't have, they don't publish your work. And then we realize a lot of interesting works are all over Africa with a lot of wonderful scholars. But why are their works not coming? It's just the digital aspect. And that is why we actually build this. We build this so that you can be able to have. This time around, we are talking about Voyant. It can be Jupyter Notebook, it can be Excel, it can be anything that addresses the digital aspect. And when you are watching the thing, you can flip through your, what do we call it, your the PowerPoint, and at the end, you can also take a quiz. I enjoy this quiz a lot because it's also for me to be able to say, what are the fundamental components that makes up Spyral Notebook, allowing for combination of narrative and code? What could be the answer here? The text cells and the text whatever, and you take this. But if I get it wrong, let's say I take this one, which is the wrong answer, it's going to give me an explanation. I can go back and say, oh, the answer is text cells and code cells, but this is an explanation. It gives you some kind of reinforcing the knowledge that you have actually acquired. So let's say, for instance, you go back, you move to the next day. So the next day, Daniel has uploaded a slide, or the video link.
Please, Yannick.
Huh? Hello. So the video link has not been uploaded, but this is the slide for Professor Rockwell on the second day. And on the third day, which was yesterday, the video is here. This was yesterday when I taught the programming basics, right? So that was day 3. And you see, so which is management of script, categories, and script data. So that's where I talk about. And today, you know, our presentations as well as custom charting. That's what I presented on the bar line power network. Tomorrow is going to be very interesting. So because this aspect is very important for digital humanities studies in Africa, especially when it comes to the question of where are the data. We have shown a simple way using Voyant to do text mining, which has always been a problem. So that one has solved. You can create a corpus in the twinkle of an eye. But what about Wikipedia? What about Sparkle? You know, Sparkle has been one of the forerunning topic in DH conferences. I've addressed the old question of the large language model, but it can be revisited tomorrow. And then I will be taking tomorrow on import. So imagine I've written a notebook with a lot of code. You don't want to see the code. You don't want to see all those things. You just want to refer to that particular notebook. That is what we're looking at. And then tomorrow, we're also looking at HTML and CSS. You remember for your documentation where you write your abstract and other things, which some of you are already doing, we just take a look at where you can alter it and how you can use a style. So that if, for instance, you are teaching, you have a style for your script, your notebook, and then you can also use this, embed it in your website. You can embed your notebook with all those visualization in your website. And at the end of the day, before we leave tomorrow, at the end of the whole 6 weeks hackathon, Professor Rockwell is going to talk about the future. Where do you go from here? What becomes of you? And then at the end of tomorrow, basically, we already know those who are going to be certified from the presentations. Work on your project, and let's know that you didn't just listen to us, but you apply to the extent that you can be trusted. And when they're talking about we need experts across the world, your name can be mentioned to handle trainings and to handle workshops. So on a good note, if there's no question, people always say I just talk and talk very fast. Any question, please? And then we close in a nice. Any question? It's like Dr. Abraham want to ask a question. Oh, you are muted. You're muted.
I think there are no questions. We can actually close. So thank you
very much. All right, over to the moderator. I'm done here. Thank you very much for listening. Over to you, Abel.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Augustine, for sharing and for explaining many things that would have been so difficult for us to make sense of, demystifying these codes and how to arrive at them. I think is golden to all of us who are in digital humanities or who are aspiring to be scholars in this area. Like he has said, tomorrow is the round off of the entire hackathon, 10-day stretch, broken into two, 5 days sometime in July, and then going through the second half in August. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We hope to see you tomorrow as we wrap up this entire discussion. Feel free to go back and rewatch the videos, ask questions in the WhatsApp chat, group chat, and then, of course, take the quizzes. That's how you reinforce the knowledge that you have acquired. All right, it's good night from me, and see you tomorrow.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
See you all in the chat. Bye. Thank you.